Hello, and welcome. Tonight, we slide quietly into a world lit softly by old camera bulbs, high school bleachers, and the flicker of a movie projector still warm with memory. You're somewhere between 16 and forever, and you've just locked eyes with someone across the hallway who makes your whole life tilt, just a little. They aren't famous, not yet. They're just the one. For Ron Howard, it was a tall redhead named Cheryl Alley, and no, she didn't fall for Opie Taylor. She fell for the boy behind the eyes, the real one. And yes, you probably won't survive how sweet this gets. Before we begin, if these stories resonate with you, feel free to like the video and subscribe, only if it truly speaks to your heart. And don't be shy, drop your location and local time in the comments. We've got folks from midnight lounges in Montreal to sunny porches in Santa Fe. Let the room grow quiet, the lights grow soft, and together, we'll drift into this evening's story, slow and steady. You remember how high school felt? That mix of boredom and heartburn. Now imagine doing that, plus being on a hit TV show. Ron was just 16, famous for playing Richie Cunningham, and previously Little Opie. And yet, one afternoon in 1970, he spots Cheryl Alley in his English class. Not an actress, not impressed by fame, just kind. She laughs at the wrong jokes, and doesn't flinch when someone calls him a Hollywood kid. They go on a first date to see It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. A fitting start, considering what's ahead. To this day, folks still wonder how a teenage crush turned into a 50-year marriage. But then again, maybe that's the secret. They started before the noise, before the critics, before the spotlight burned too hot. You don't marry your high school sweetheart and expect Hollywood to just behave. The industry chews up relationships like movie popcorn. Still, you picture it, Ron and Cheryl, barely adults, heading into the lion's den of LA together. While everyone else was busy chasing scripts, Cheryl was building the kind of silence that could hold a man's whole heart. She wasn't just behind the scenes, she was the scene that mattered. While Ron filmed Happy Days, then launched into directing, Cheryl became his compass. She wasn't at every premiere. She didn't care about red carpets. In a town where power couple usually means matching Botox and mutual PR agents, she was writing poetry, raising kids, and packing sandwiches. Honestly, you try surviving a production meeting without a peanut butter and jelly surprise from someone who actually gives a damn. In 1984, Ron directed Splash, the film that made him a serious name behind the camera. Most people saw The Mermaid. Cheryl saw the stress. She reminded him to breathe, to come home, to wash off the pressure with dish soap and family dinners. One night, when a big-shot executive sneered at Ron's homebody lifestyle, Cheryl just smiled and said, "We like our quiet." That's the kind of mic drop you don't hear at Vanity Fair parties. To this day, folks still debate whether Cheryl gave up a bigger public life to support his. Maybe, but maybe she chose something richer: privacy, poetry, purpose, and Ron. He didn't just survive Hollywood. He outlasted it, with both his marriage and sanity intact. And there's your quirky tidbit. Cheryl once refused to move into a Hollywood Hills mansion because, in her words, "I don't want to be too far from normal." Imagine that, turning down luxury just to keep your feet on real ground. The late 80s rolled in with neon fashion, Wall Street greed, and more hairspray than the ozone could handle. Hollywood was thriving, but not in a way that cared about balance or boundaries. For Ron, now deep into directing, every success came with a side of pressure. Box office hits like Cocoon and Parenthood were thrilling, sure, but also exhausting. And this is where Cheryl stepped in, again, not as a background player, but as the architect of their inner life. You picture her now, standing at the kitchen sink, while the kids tear through homework, and Ron rewrites a shot list for Backdraft on the fridge door. She wasn't the type to host celebrity brunches or compare designer handbags. Her parties were potlucks. Her favorite accessory was a good book, and her most daring act, telling Ron when to turn off his phone and be here now. There's this moment, a real one, when Ron's filming days would end late, and Cheryl would leave a note on his pillow. Nothing grand, maybe a quote, maybe a reminder about tomorrow's science fair. But it was her rhythm that kept him grounded. Even his crew knew, if Cheryl called, Ron answered. Period. To this day, people still argue whether Ron could have become Ron Howard, director extraordinaire, without Hollywood networking. But the truth sits quietly at his kitchen table, reading poetry and sipping tea. Cheryl didn't just help him survive the madness, she taught him to walk through it without forgetting who he was. And your fringe tidbit. Cheryl collects old teacups, dozens of them, chipped and all. She says each one has a story, just like marriages, not perfect, but whole, because of, not in spite of, the cracks. You shuffle into the mid-2000s, that odd decade where flip phones ruled. Hollywood rebranded itself every 2 years, and everything needed a sequel. Ron Howard's career was a well-oiled machine by now. Oscar wins, mega productions, paparazzi waiting outside every screening. But in the eye of that storm, still Cheryl, still home, still the silence behind the applause. See, this was the part where most couples start to wobble. Fame doesn't just knock, it barges in, steals your calendar, your privacy, even your tone of voice. But Cheryl, she created what Ron would later call the sanctuary. Not some dramatic escape house in the woods, but the kind of home where no one asked for autographs, and the only red carpet was the welcome mat. When Ron directed A Beautiful Mind, people praised his vision, but privately, he credited Cheryl for being his own compass through chaos, especially as their family faced real-life challenges behind the scenes. Parenting teens, aging parents, the grief of losing friends. None of it makes the tabloids, but it's the stuff that tests love's wiring. To this day, folks still wonder how Ron avoided the ego trap that swallowed so many of his peers. The answer, if you listen closely, always circles back to Cheryl. She was never threatened by his fame, and he never let the spotlight cast a shadow over her. Here's your quirky tidbit. Cheryl once made Ron do a full no-work weekend, locked his phone in a cookie jar, banned emails, and made him play Pictionary with the kids. He lost every round, loved every second. This was the magic. Not just surviving Hollywood, but laughing through it, together. And now you drift into the present, where Ron's beard is mostly white. Cheryl's laughter lines are earned, not feared, and the world finally catches up to what they've always known. The real success isn't in the box office numbers. It's in who's still waiting for you when the after-party ends. You imagine them now, sitting quietly on a porch. Cheryl with a crossword, Ron tinkering with a script he might not even film. No pressure, no pretense. Just two people who made it through 50 years without letting the world rearrange their souls. That's rarer than Oscars, and infinitely more precious. Ron has said it plainly, in interviews he doesn't enjoy giving. She's the reason I made it through. Not a reason, the anchor, the ballast. The reminder that even when you're surrounded by producers and praise, it means nothing if the person you love can't recognize you anymore. To this day, folks still argue whether Hollywood marriages are doomed by default, but this one, it quietly defied the script. No scandal, no public therapy sessions, no messy memoirs. Just daily, intentional, grounded love. Here's a final quirky footnote. When Ron won his Oscar, Cheryl had to remind him where he left the trophy later that night. It was in the kitchen, next to a stack of laundry. That's their marriage, right there. Fame on the counter, real life in motion. And you sit back, maybe holding hands with someone you've shared a lifetime with, or maybe dreaming of that kind of steadiness someday. Either way, this story doesn't ask for applause. It just hopes you feel a little more sure that quiet love can still win. Now, let yourself breathe a little deeper. Picture a dimly lit room, the hush of night settling in like a blanket across your shoulders. You're not rushing anywhere. You're simply here, held by the quiet endurance of a love that refused to quit. Tomorrow will come with its noise and news, but for now, drift easy in the knowledge that steadfastness still matters. That behind every strong man, there may be a woman not seeking credit, but deserving it all. If this story warmed your heart or reminded you of your own journey, we'd be honored if you gave it a like and subscribed to stay with us for more gentle tales made just for you. Take care of yourself, rest easy, and may tomorrow bring peace, warmth, and maybe even a good laugh. Good night, dear friends.